It's a pleasure to have you all here for another exciting edition of Stories Behind Products. I am thrilled to share with you the story of Forcite Helmets. I'm Boyadgis, a professor of industrial design at UNSW, and I'm delighted to welcome you all from the beautiful Bijical country where I live. I pay my respects to the Bijical people who are the traditional custodians of this unceded land, and I acknowledge their elders, both past and present. This evening, we have the super duo Alfred Boyadgis and Julian Chow as our presenters. Both are exceptional graduates at UNSW with first-class honors in industrial design. Alfred and Julian will talk about Forcite Helmets, the world's first ECE-approved, mass-produced, high-tech smart motorcycle helmets with integrated communication, navigation, and safety features. Forcite MK1S won the Good Design Australian Best in Class Award in 2022, and Forcite MK1 won the Good Design Awards Australia Gold Award in 2019. Alfred is co-founder and CEO at Forcite Helmet Systems. He's a talented industrial designer with experience working on wearable technology for intellectual ventures in Sydney. His journey started as an intern for Panasonic, consumer electronic engineering in Japan, working on the world's first smart fridges. Alfred was a research assistant at UNSW for a year. He also worked as a structural engineer, graphic designer, and assistant on 100+ different projects for Signcraft. Julian is the talented co-founder and head of design and UI UX at Forcite Helmet Systems, leading multidisciplinary roles since 2014. His career started in visual communication at Convey in Hong Kong. He has since worked on a range of exciting industrial design projects for Tapit Media, SabreDesign, ATP Sydney, and NDANDA in Hong Kong. Julian was also a Design Studio Tutor at UNSW Industrial Design. You can ask your questions via the chat function. Now, it's time for Alfred and Julian to take the stage. Over to you two.
So rather than having graphics show up in front of a helmet, which is something that we've built in the past, the LED array that can dull and brighten in those situations is just much easier for people to understand. So we can create an overall user experience that's nice when you're traveling at speed. So that's really kind of like what we do at Forcite, what the product is.
Yeah, it's also quite gestural, and you don't have any language barriers. People perceive color in the same way, and people also perceive the patterns in a similar way as well. So that's how we came up with this, and we'll go into that a little bit later of how we eventually came up with that design in the later slides.
I can explain this slide.
Yeah.
So this slide here is, so we're a Microsoft partner as well. So like on the back end of our system is where a lot of the smarts happen. So where all the processing happens, doesn't happen on board the helmet. So essentially, like, to build a product like this, rather than putting all the computing power into the helmet, which makes the helmet quite expensive and not really that intelligent, it's done on the back end in real time. So every millisecond, we update all of the apps that are out there with our riders with new incoming information. This could be locations of speed cameras, police cars, potholes on road from like the Waze API. It could be traffic data. It could be reports coming in from other riders that are around there. So there's an element of predictive thinking about the information that's coming in. And that goes into our command system. And we actually have a pattern around, or a pending pattern around, how that information is given to the rider at speed. So based off your bearing, your speed, your riding habits, it'll actually tailor that information and give it to you in a timely way. And that's kind of like what protects our company actually the most. It's the backend data system that it's all built on.
Cool. This is the Forcite mobile application that we developed. It provides you with all sorts of controls and advanced kind of preferences that you like. So if you want to choose to know more about police, for example, if there's any police in the area, if there's car accidents, if there's any sort of traffic and hazards, you can set your preferences to and tailor that to your writing experience.
And you're about to see how ironic the police alert is when you see my final year project. So it kind of went a full like to the dark side, but anyway.
Yeah, cool. Let's get to the next slide. So we've been featured in quite a lot of different sort of publications, and we've won quite a few awards from this project, which is great having that kind of recognition. So this is where we all began in UNSW Industrial Design. So Alfred, if you can explain a bit of how you came to...
Yeah, so like originally, I guess I wanted to make a product for the police force. So that's why it's really kind of ironic that I'm making something that tells motorcyclists where police are. And I guess that it changed that way because we had a whole bunch of motorcycle riders actually ask us for the product prior to the police force wanting it. So it kind of changed a bit. But, you know, really like the design of this project was something really ultra futuristic, something very different to everything that's out there now. And it's kind of like the concept car to the realized mass-produced product. So there's still a fair amount of features and principles inside here that go into this product today. So next slide. So here's a picture of it. And I think the major thing and the reason it's called Forcite is it's all about getting information to a motorcycle rider in a faster way. So they have some level of precognition. In this situation, it was more about a police officer wearing the helmet, getting to the scene of an accident, being able to broadcast the information with a camera that was under the visor to like a local area command or to another emergency service like an ambulance, and be able to react faster. And the way that changed into the product that it is today is Forcite is more about preemptive thinking about road alerts of, it could be a pothole on the road because I had an accident, went through that as well. It could be, you know, some sort of hazard or a nearby driver for a real kind of situation that's happening now. So a lot of the principles that happened in this project actually made it into the mass production product as well, just a different customer. And we do have police that own our helmet and use it today as well for similar reasons.
So this is the founding of Forcite. So Alfred and I actually started off in this warehouse building just in Alexandria. So it was a co-working space of sorts, and it was quite a strange place, in fact. And we worked out of there, and we grew from just 2 people to 6 people in that room. And this is where we came up with the first consumer product that kind of was inspired from what Alfred has done for his project. And this is the Forcite Alpine. So it's a snow sports helmet that had all the tech features similar to the Forcite police helmet. And this is more of an entertainment product than a police force helmet. It's got tracking, and you can go to the ski slopes and be able to share your footage from that day and be able to listen to music around the ski slopes as well.
So once again, why? And the reason is when we took on our first investment, the ambition to build a motorcycle product actually, and the money that was required, everyone said it's impossible. Like you need millions and millions of dollars. Your team isn't good enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of listened to those things. We were like, oh, well, what do we do first? And we had some investors at the time that were avid skiers. They suggested the snow sports product. Now, kind of the first mistake in entrepreneurship is making a product that you don't actually understand or really have a huge amount of passion about. But we were really making this so we could make money to make the motorcycle thing. And this is, I guess, where Jay and I's PTSD starts. But yeah, no, it ends with a new product, but this is where it begins, I guess.
So it also featured a mobile application at the time, and we already had these like budding ideas of how this Forcite motorcycle product would work. And so in a similar fashion, we kind of added a lot of the features that we wanted in this product, and that eventually grew and also stemmed from this area. So some of the learnings we had was snow sports were a very seasonal thing. So you do it once in winter. The price point that we had to build the whole entire helmet was like just way too high for the targeted market. And also the investment and the potential market was quite capped and quite limited for what we could do with that particular product, being such a high-end and expensive product. It was just very hard to market. So we kind of took a break from that, and we started doing an OEM model. So we started producing what we called the EON system. So this system had a couple of like cool features in there, and we were going around essentially to all the helmet brands to see if any of the brands wanted to work with us and buy our technology. And the offering also included the mobile application and a few little interesting bits and pieces for them to integrate into their products.
So even though this was an excruciating experience for us to go around to all the manufacturers and try to sell a chip, which is against every design principle I know, really. But the main thing that we got from doing this, we were successful in a license, which Jay will show you in a bit. But it was actually, we met some of the best people in helmet design while we were there. Some of the biggest manufacturers and kind of like the capacity of every single company that was out there. So in my little black book, as I was going around, I was taking the names of the heads of design, what factories they were making stuff in. And actually that little black book was really, if I was ever to make my own motorcycle thing or my own product in that sector, I'd be talking to these people and this network inside there. So I know if it sounds a little bit kind of deceitful or cunning or whatever, but that was really actually fundamental in the design of our future products.
And building that network and knowing all these people, getting to know essentially how the industry worked was where this product actually helped us. So this was one of the first few projects we did. This is an American football helmet with all the smarts and all the cool things that we had from the Alpine, and we integrated it into a different helmet. And that was the finished product over here.
Essentially, it's an Alpine. It looks kind of like the same thing. It's the same format, same tech. But the license of this technology essentially got us back the capital that we invested in the snow sports product. So we essentially got ourselves back to square one with this product and had a lot of fun kind of doing it.
And there's
this is me training with a
Seattle
Seahawks. So this helmet broadcasted the plays to the ref on the sideline. I know nothing about the NFL, so I was a bit of a fish out of water here, talking to people like Russell Wilson and stuff. I didn't know who they were, which was kind of good because I wasn't like fanboying over them. That was a fun little stint. It was fun actually.
Yeah, so that was a little interim side project. So we learned a lot from that. It's just the whole business model did not really help us succeed into what we wanted to be. And we were just talking amongst ourselves and thinking, is this going to be the career we want to, like, we were, first of all, trying to steer away from doing more design consultancy work. And however, we still found ourselves back into it. So
licensing is, as I said, it goes against everything you are as a kind of a designer, because you're selling a component which they essentially integrate, and you're really just a component salesperson. You get treated as such, and don't really listen too much about ideas. And it's in our DNA to build something ourselves. So we kind of had a split in the company at that point with some investors, and we decided to pursue our own product again.
Yeah, so we also discovered that a lot of these manufacturers and factories, they work on a very different margin and work on a very different pricing model. So when that happens, we're talking about electronics that are $100, but to them, they're working with margins for plastics, which cost them 50 cents, 20 cents. So they were quite scared of what we were offering, and they didn't really understand how to do a lot of these things. Or integrating our technology into their products. So that was quite scary for them, and we didn't choose to pursue that.
So one thing is, like, all the big helmet manufacturers were like, you can never get this thing through standards. And turns out we knew a way to do it, but no one else did. To this day, they still don't understand how to do it, which is interesting.
Yeah. So this kind of stems back to what Alfred was mentioning before. Most of these modern motorcyclists would be putting all these devices onto their helmets. They've got cameras, they've got this like massive comm system. And a lot of the times you don't really, have a lot of riders with you. You'll be doing it solo. So you'll be using that comm system to solely listen to music. So we found all these click-on devices were actually getting phased out by the legislation, and that these products are actually quite dangerous if you use these products to modify your helmet.
So just for retrospect, like we're at the Hero 12 now with GoPro, right? Like when Jay and I were discussing this type of technology, it was the Hero 2, like when it first came out. Comm sets weren't even really a thing that had taken off. This kind of, so I guess we were like 5 years ahead of the curve. Now manufacturers are kind of going like, oh, damn, like we have to integrate this tech now.
Yeah, and also to pass the standards and make the actual product safe. So we had that edge already to kind of pursue this product. So
at that point in time, manufacturers were like, no one puts cameras on their helmets. Why would you want to do that? Like, and no one sells stuff online. Like that was the kind of vibe that was happening. So
yeah, so we kind of used that kind of disconnect between the big brands and the actual community. And we found that we could actually use that to our advantage. And so we started looking at how to position us in this entire market and looking at different brands and where we can actually sit in this particular marketplace with our product. And so that actually driven us to find what sort of features we can include within this price point and within this category. So we started to pivot to the motorcycling, and we pretty much put all our resources to this particular project. And this led us to our very first motorcycle prototype. And this is actually the UNSW wind tunnel. If you guys have been there, you probably recognize it. So that's how we came up with a design of aerodynamic, very simple design to trial the product. So if you can see in this prototype, the actual camera and all the electronics were actually inside the forward, and also it's spread out throughout the entire shell. So this was one of the riders we put the helmet on, and Alfred came up with this pretty interesting idea at the time, and we did need to know more about the community and what people were actually looking for in this particular style of product. And so Alfred went into Facebook and started creating a Facebook group and also hitting up all these different riding clubs. And so one of them was the Desmo Club in San Francisco. Alfred, do you want to chat about this a little bit?
Yeah. Look, when we were like, oh, we're going to make a motorbike product, we set up a Facebook page, went to all these riding groups, and they actually joined the group. So at one point, like, would have been a month after creating the group, we had about 3,500 riders, like 6,000. We had 6,000 6 months in, and ended up getting to about 7,500, 8,000 riders who were just interested in smart helmet tech. So, what we did here was, Jay do some sketches, I do some market research. And they were almost like the entire riding community was like, if we were a design firm, they were the clients. And in this situation, we kind of like, we changed things, and we eventually got to a product which they felt they built because we were just doing it as a conduit through them. And in San Francisco, went over there, met with a bunch of people in tech, talked about helmets, smart helmet tech, and what they thought. Piloted this model that we had, which didn't really work, but it was kind of like the community was actually the main driving force behind the product from the sketch, pretty much. Yeah.
So obviously there was like a lot of things that were wrong about this first prototype or first iteration of this helmet. We actually learned a lot from this from that riding group, and so we went back to the drawing board and started redesigning the whole thing. And one of the learnings was how do we actually pass the standards to make this a consumer-ready product? So we started moving all the electronics away from the forehead area, which is basically the very vulnerable area where all the testing happens, all the impacts happen. So we moved it all away to avoid the major crash zones, and we put it right in front of a chin bar. So we had a few advantages by doing that. And one of the things that we had to reinvent was how it was mounted to the carbon fiber shell. So we had to build a system to do all that. And this is called the reflex mechanism. And this mechanism actually helped us not only pass the standards, but also be able for us to easily install and also disassemble the electronics. So maintenance became very easy. And also, if you've damaged your shell, the customer can easily purchase a new shell, and we'll just install the same electronics back onto a brand new shell. So the post-purchase servicing became a very important thing in our whole entire Forcite purchasing experience.
So, like, for example, 80% of the cost of goods is in the electronics module. The rest is the helmet itself. The electronics is the most expensive bit. So if you have an extra small helmet in teal or something and you can't sell it, it sits there for a very long time. So what we do is, as people order the helmet, we put the electronics in, and if anyone damages the helmet, they can send it back to us, and for half the price, we'll put it into a new shell for them. So it's that versatility, which is really important from day one.
And this is how the mechanism works, and that allows the actual unit to pivot and move independently during a crash. And that allows the carbon fiber shell to do its job and take the impact without cracking. So we started looking at different ways of delivering more value to our riders. And a lot of people have talked about heads-up display, which Alfred have briefly touched on. We're figuring out what is a very minimalist way to provide information to a rider who's in a very high intensity environment. So we looked at Formula One drivers, and they have this very similar technology using LEDs, and that tells them when to shift and what RPMs they're in. So this was a very cool way, and we thought that was a interesting way of doing that in the helmet. So a lot of people asked, how do you know when your camera is on, or how do I navigate? And we came up with an idea of just using lights to just tell you when your camera is on. And that kind of grew into all these different functions that we discovered we could do with LEDs. And we started experimenting with how to provide navigation information. So turn left, turn right signals. And we came up with a very simple way of doing that, which evolved eventually into today's LED system, which we call the peripheral display. So using just 16 LEDs, we can provide all sorts of different patterns, colors, different sorts of information that we could provide to the rider without distracting them on the road, and be able to see the road quite clearly. So we started looking for all sorts of partners and factories that we work with. Like, we went to all sorts of countries, went to Vietnam, we went to China, and then we eventually landed in Taiwan, which a brand was quite supportive of us. They understood our project quite well, and that evolved us into building the first 20 prototypes with the technology inside. So this is what it kind of looked like at first. We were just like strapping all this tech onto the helmet, and it was just a messy thing that we did, but that gave us a lot of learnings to eventually get to a first polished product, which we also called the Founders Edition. So we launched the first 1,000 units of the Founders Edition. And we did that at an event that we hosted called the Test Fest. So this was in 2019 at Leadenham Raceway here in Sydney. We woke up like, 5 a.m. in the morning, preparing the helmets and getting everything to the race course, setting up all the stands and getting demos ready. It was a hectic experience.
The night before, when we went live, there was so many people trying to buy the helmet that the whole web server crashed, and we had to migrate our entire payment system onto a new gateway. So I was on the phone until 4 in the morning, set my alarm for 30 minutes, and then got back in the car with all the helmets to head out to the track. And there was people there at like 6 o'clock in the morning bringing us Red Bulls and being like, come on, guys, get through it. Like, get through today.
Yeah, we had guys from like Canberra. We had people from Brisbane riding down just to essentially experience what all this was. And we had, you know, a racer there and doing all sorts of like cool stuff on the track. And yeah, the turnout was quite amazing. And we had so many people come in to check out what was going on.
On that first day, even though I was very sleep deprived, you know, I had one of our investors come up and say, you've sold 700 helmets today. And I was like, that is insane, right? And the only reason we didn't sell the full 1,000 that day was we did a tour all around Australia and people were waiting just to check their size. So it was quite an overwhelming success. And I guess like all of these people were in our community and they felt like they built it. So when they came, they were already like vested in the product. And even though it was buggy and it didn't really do everything we said it would, they bought it anyway, right? So yeah,
this is Alfred, you know, fixing up some of the prototypes and getting it ready for customers. We had customers riding on the track with the prototypes and trying out the features, and also providing us with a lot of like handy feedback and which helped us to improve the product even further later on down the track. So we actually sold out of the Founders Edition within the first 3 days.
Yep.
That actually won us the first Good Design Awards in Australia, which we're quite proud of. And suddenly COVID hit. And we got stranded we've got all these orders, we've got all these customers waiting for their product. They're super excited about it. And all of a sudden, our logistics, our supply chains, they just suddenly crashed and stopped delivering to us, essentially.
Yeah, so we're on the premise of popping champagne. People really like our product. We're like getting ready to ship them out, talking to suppliers. Then this happens. And essentially it like puts the brakes on like the entire operation almost immediately.
And so we had a breath of normality right after that. And we actually received our products. We're also flying over to Taipei before, just to like make sure everything is in check before all the helmets arrived. And we finally got them here. We fully assembled everything and we started shipping as fast as we can to make sure there was no hiccups.
So these helmets were a year late when we finally received them. So we couldn't make any more because like we needed these to get out the door first. So we weren't really open to taking even more pre-orders. We had to keep the community and all the people that had faith in us online and not wanting a refund. Like we had at least, I'd say 10% of the customers get a refund throughout the process for waiting so long. But we were able to resell their build slot to someone else that really wanted one. So it was really an arduous process to get these out and get them out there. And what we were thinking as founders was like, if this is how it all ends, at least let's get these customers their helmet and then ride off into the sunset, so to speak, rather than going down as the company that didn't deliver anything. So it was a very momentous day when we shipped those out and a sigh of relief.
And before, before celebrating, COVID-2 kind of happened.
So yeah, at that point, it's like, okay, we got them all out. Let's order some more helmets so we can start selling them and making some money. And then, like big brands were buying semiconductor kind of like toilet paper at this point in time, panicking that, COVID would never end and buying enormous, like multi-billion-dollar surpluses of chips. So this kind of left us in this position where, hey, we want to buy some chips for our helmets, but all the big manufacturers are buying them up. So we had to buy them off a thing called the spot market, which is like, it's kind of like the stock market, but for chips, right? And these numbers fluctuate. So essentially what this is like a big manufacturer will buy too many chips, then they'll want to sell those chips, and companies small like us want to buy them. And then we end up paying anywhere between 5 and 8 times as much to get the chips to sell them. So we end up making helmets which cost us just as much to make as much as they retail, right? But the fact was we were still producing and still shipping the product and just kind of surviving by a bootstrap to kind of get it out there and grinding through. And now now that we're getting helmets like delivered in a much more rapid way, you know, our margins are getting a hell of a lot better. They're actually quite good at the moment. And to date, we've shipped over 5,000 units. So like, you know, it was a really big effort to get where it was, but
yeah, we stayed resilient, and we just kept going. And it's like, we even like couldn't pay ourselves for quite a long time during COVID, just to survive through and keep the company alive. So after COVID, we're like, we really need to get all these riders, we need to get this community back together. So we started doing more events and having more of a physical presence. So we started going to places like Pie in the Sky, which is a place where a lot of motorcyclists like to gather before their ride or during their ride. And that was quite a successful event. And we started doing more of that, and we discovered the power of events. So
I got something to add.
Yep. Yeah, cool.
So like, this is us selling another, so we had 300 helmets land. So we were like, hey guys, we got helmets again. Pretty much that day we sold 300 helmets. Like, and these people were all coming, like, this is like 8 o'clock in the morning. Or like, can I buy one? Can I buy one? And I was like, oh, they're all sold. Like, I was actually setting up the table for this event. And this guy came, he was the first person to get there. And he's like, I just wanted to try my size and buy a helmet. I'm like, no worries. And I went on the website to put his order through, and it wouldn't process the order. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So called up our CTO, and I'm like, there's something wrong with the website. I can't put orders through. And he's like, dude, they're all sold. And I'm like, it's been open for an hour. Like, how is that? He's like, they're all sold, man. And then these people, like that whole like meme of shut up and take my money thing happened in real life here, where people were like getting angry that they couldn't buy one. So much so that this guy rode up from Melbourne and he wanted to buy a helmet. And he's like, I'm leaving my helmet here. Here's $1,000 cash, and I'm taking this one. And he like pretty much picked one up. I'm like,
he took a demo helmet and took it with him.
Like, dude, what are you doing? You can't take it. It doesn't have all the stuff. And he's like, look, mate, I'm not leaving without one. And he was like, made a big scene about it. And I was like, fine. I took his cash and I was like, take it, whatever.
So that's how we discovered like doing events and having this more physical presence was such an important thing, rather than just solely being an online business. So we started sponsoring more races, more riders, going to the racetrack more. This is one of our riders from ASPK. So Aiden Hayes is a big advocate of our Forcite brand. And there he is through the racetrack. I'm just going to quickly show you a footage from Aiden's helmets. Switch. So this is just a short clip of one of your videos. Yeah, let's switch back to that.
But like we had, so that was at 200 kilometers an hour. And we went through actually building these helmets. So racing is really close to us, right? So, you know, I remember the first prototypes that we took down to the racetrack essentially like shook apart under the stress of racing. And I was in the pits with like screwdrivers and wires and soldering irons trying to fix the helmet like in real time and put it back on the racer and take it out again. And, you know, the learnings of that meant that the module that we made was so shock resistant and so resilient. Like a regular rider doesn't do these types of speeds and come off like this, right? So it's kind of over-engineered. And, you know, like that guy came off at 200 Ks, and we were able to take the module out, put it into a brand new shell and reship it, to the extent where we had our competitor Shark Helmets come up to the stand, shake our hand and go like, welcome to the big leagues. Cause like, if you're not racing, you're not really in the sector, right? So that was kind of a big moment for us.
So that video I just showed you, that became quite a big reach inside the community, and people start to see the value of having that camera in front of you. You're capturing the moments, and if you can do that on the track, you can do it on the road. So that became a really big feature for us, and a lot of people started tuning into what we were all about and what we were actually doing. So we started receiving a big following after that video. And so through the feedback of our customers and also from the community, we were also looking at how to improve the product and take this to another level. And we received a lot of feedback about wind noise, comfort, just basic materials, and also they want more from the audio because they love the music so much. They wanted more sound quality. They wanted more comfort from having drivers next to their ears as well. So we started redesigning everything, and we launched the MK1S. So the MK1S uses the same platform as the first helmet, and we did a lot of modifications to it, and we also redesigned the visors and providing them with essentially a leading, a world-leading brand pin lock, having pin lock inside, and all these features that people actually wanted in the next version. And we also worked with the Harman Audio, which provided us with a lot of sound tuning and support with the sound.
Pin lock is an anti-fog insert for the visor, for those of you not in the
motorcycle industry. And that allowed us, for a lot of riders which requested this feature, that allowed us to redesign and integrate this feature. So that was the premium liner that we redesigned. And this is the anti-fog layer, which Alfred has mentioned. And we also created a locking mechanism for those that really like to go on the racetrack and race. And this is the new driver that we worked with Harman Kardon to pretty much produce a new sound experience within this helmet and providing a better sound stage while you're listening to music on the road.
So I guess like something really interesting here is you launched your product and your brand out, and you're pretty much a nobody, right? And then I guess as you start to get traction and ship more product, bigger brands want to start to work with you. And I guess we call this benchmark branding. So because not so many people know what Forcite is, having the Harman Kardon logo, the Sony logo, the Pinlock logo associated with the brand, even a Good Design Award to an extent, helps elevate and for people to understand that this is a trustworthy brand. And I guess as we start to build our next generation products, we actually are partnering with even bigger brands that want to get involved with what we're doing. So it's just something to kind of note, like if you're launching your own product out in the industry, benchmark branding can be a really powerful tool that you don't have to spend a lot of marketing effort on to leverage the network of a larger brand. So, yeah.
Cool. And so we started improving the mobile application as well. So providing more reliable alerts, as well as being able to edit your videos and be able to share the experiences, just like what Aiden has done for us with the point of view videos. And also a new feature that we've launched was route building, which allows riders to share their itinerary with other riders to essentially build out a day of riding with other riders and their friends. So that also helped us build the community and allow people to hop onto the whole entire Forcite platform. And in 2022, this product won us the Good Design Award.
I had way too much to drink, I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, there's Alfred hiding in the back.
Yeah, you can tell. A couple too many. Yeah.
That was a fun night. So we discovered the power of community and also sponsoring a lot of events. So one of the big events we sponsor is Women's Ride Day as well. So this is one of the big turnouts we had, and just having this big community of people and involving them in our riding and also involving them in our R&D, that actually has built us a lot of credibility in the local community.
Yeah, interestingly, like when we first started out, only about 5% of our customers were women. Now it's about 20%. So like that community is growing, definitely through our kind of support these type of days.
And this is our customer ride day. So every now and then we'll be opening up the office, and we'll get new customers and also existing customers to come hang out with us, learn about what we're doing, and also go for a ride together.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like, you are selling a product, but like if you're selling like a community and an experience as well, it's definitely a lot more powerful. Like, these people love knowing about like what's coming up with Forcite, going for a ride, enjoying the motorbike, you know, telling us some feedback about the product. And, you know, we really like being there and doing this kind of thing. So, yeah.
So through learning about the first 1,300 units that we sold, we learned a lot about customer service and learning about how to essentially help them with their aftercare of the product. And yeah, a lot of people have been enjoying our product and services, and we're essentially the only Forcite, well, we're the only smart helmet product in the world that you can service and also maintain after purchase.
Yeah, proud to say that the only real complaints that we've got is like it's got lost in the mail, which isn't really our fault, or they've bought the wrong size. So I think we're doing pretty good on the tech and product side.
Cool, and we're also quite fortunate to have Ryan from Fortnite, who is a really big motorcycle influencer on YouTube. And he was really interested in our product, and he actually purchased the product off us. We didn't even send him one for free or anything like that. He wanted to buy one voluntarily, and he wanted to do an honest review of the product. And
so, yeah, this guy's got millions of people that follow him. And when he's like, I'm going to buy the product, and I was like, what? Well, we can just supply it to you. It's all good. And he's like, no, because if it's shitty, I'm going to tell people it is. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So when we were making this helmet, we're like, make sure everything was 110% perfect.
We triple checked. We made sure it connected and everything was operating. Nothing scary will happen when he receives it, hopefully. So yeah, that was an order that we paid a lot of attention to.
So he was like, it's brilliant. It's the best smart helmet thing that is out there. It's actually the only thing you could buy. And you can see like our web traffic on that day went to 11,000 people in the USA talking about it. And this spurred the interest of quite a large distributor in the United States.
Yeah, so last year we also launched in EICMA. So this is one of the biggest motorcycle shows in Milan. It was a 4-day event, and we spoke to a lot of industry people, and also a lot of customers who were walking around. And it was roughly around like 11,000 people per day in foot traffic, and there was like all these huge brands and suppliers that we met. It was a very interesting and successful show. So we also recently launched in the US, over in the USA version of EICMA. So the AIM Expo is another motorcycle show over there. We had loads of interest, and we also established a distribution network, and this network will provide us with up to 7,000 stores worth of inventory and sales. So we're also going to open up direct to customer as well in the US through this help of this distributor. So we've also established our Sydney headquarters and assembly. This is where we do all our R&D, as well as final assembly, pick packing, and also shipping to customers. And we also currently have a Taiwanese assembly plant, which will aid the supply chain to the US orders, as well as increasing our production capabilities.
Might add here that our workers don't wear hoodies and use collapsible tables. This is when we were just starting it up. It's a full-on facility now. Yeah, next slide, quick.
Yeah. So Forcite Labs. So you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so with the help of New South Wales government, this 900 square meter facility has been built for us, and this will be unveiled, I guess, in the next couple of months at a ceremony. But this facility is going to be right on the racetrack. It can house up to 100 people there and have production capability. So, really solidifying us as an Australian company and producer of this helmet, and this will be our flagship area. So being able to take riders around the track, do more testing with racing, which is really close to us, and pretty much built on a racetrack. So kind of living the dream.
Yeah, and we hope to make this place a motorsports destination and really establish our brand further in this new space that we are being provided. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. And I think that's about it, which leaves us perfectly with 10 minutes to do questions and answers.
Perfect timing. Thank you. Such a great story showing the power of community and collaboration, and also persistence and trusting yourselves. So there's a few questions in the chat and I'm going to read them. First question comes from Jackson Jones. He says the handlebar mounted controller is unique in helmet comm systems. What was the thought behind the design?
So essentially, while you're riding, it's quite hard to operate some of these controls. Even if you have your phone in front of you, you would want something that's quite easy to press on with gloves on. So having a small puck that gives you access to all these basic and also fundamental controls is quite useful for a rider. And being able to like switch music, for example, and be able to turn on and off your camera. It's kind of like having a shortcut towards like all these features that you have within this helmet.
The next question again from Jackson. He says, how difficult was it to design a helmet meeting ECE and DOT requirements with all the internal technology included, and with all the ECE 2206 version be developed?
Yeah, good question. So we're the only manufacturer with the standard certification because of that special mechanism which we put in there that can absorb the impact for 2205. So it's like this little guy here, but also the internals. There's a ceramic battery, so having something that doesn't rupture or ignite is very important inside the helmet. But we essentially went through hundreds of different prototypes that failed and came to a couple of really core assumptions. The first one is you can't rigidly mount the electronics in a helmet because it'll crack the shell, and you can't put anything into the external foam layer because you end up creating structural points. So there is brands that do that. I won't go down a rabbit hole of how they do that, but it's not in a way that they can create a helmet that is super lightweight, but also something that is kind of versatile to use in a way and manufacture. So we're the only ones kind of doing it that way, this special way.
Yeah, so we worked quite closely with factories and labs to essentially get enough of that testing data, which also gave us the information to design the electronics in a very specific area, and which is how we led to our design.
So ECE 2206 has quite a abrupt oblique anvil test onto the side of the helmet. So the real change with the two standards is the ECE 2206 is a much higher velocity. So helmets are getting bigger because of ECE 2206. We've passed internal testing of ECE 2206. And the main reason for that is we don't have any electronics inside the phone. It's all in this module at the front. So manufacturers that are integrating 2206 with electronics in the side shell, you're going to have really quite heavy, chunky helmets to do that. We don't want that experience for people. I guess the standards are very, very close to what we do. And I think that as we evolve the technology, we'll even be creating our own standard for smart helmets through electromagnetic fields, types of connectivity to bikes for advanced rider assistance systems, types of batteries that you should use. So really, we're on the forefront of standards, talking with standards bodies about this now. So yeah, great question.
Great answer. So again, from Jackson Jones, the question is, what type of riders are you targeting? I presume sports bike riders are the major audience.
Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So right now, one of the biggest markets is the sport consumer. So the sport consumer is kind of like your daily sports bike and urban riders. So we've designed it in a way where it's not a very aggressive riding position. So it's quite in a neutral spot where it's just between a sports bike and just between a upright naked bike. So that kind of helps us capture most of these riders. In the future, we'll start branching out into all sorts of different riding types. So you've got your adventurers, you've also got your retro riders, which we can have a lot of fun with in terms of design. The lid itself is quite an important component of the whole entire system. We can actually package up the electronics into different shells to provide different use cases in the future.
So think about the helmet like your phone case, right? And the technology like your phone. So that's essentially how we built it. So if we're doing different styles, doesn't necessarily mean that we need an entirely new electronics package. That's the Forcite experience with the app and the tech. The style is really a fashion, well, it's kind of like a fashion piece for what industry that you're going into with that sector. So we plan to have a bit of everything, yeah, for sure. Anything else from Jackson Jones?
Maybe later on. The next question is from Datyun, and he asks, as entrepreneurial designers, what subjects/topics would be useful to study / wished you had studied alongside IDES that would help prepare you for running your own business? What do you think it takes, to be successful as an entrepreneur?
None.
Oh.
None.
It's doing business.
Nothing helps you more than getting out there and going and doing it yourself, listening to people and actually building stuff. I'm sorry, I know there's entrepreneurship classes and all of this, and they can give you the foundations, like how to do a pitch deck, how to do this, how to make a forecast, like you can do an MBA, right? But what really teaches you is literally just having to do it, right? And getting out there and not knowing and surrounding yourself with a network of people that can help you do it. I'm really sorry, but like...
It's kind of like learning like a martial art, right? You can read all about martial arts, but you have to actually get yourself into a dojo and actually try it out, or else you'll never really know what martial arts is all about.
Yeah. I love the analogy with martial arts. So true. So the next question is from Professor Özlem Er, and she asks if you have any patents on this product.
Yes, we sure do. So one of the patents is
so we have two. So we're going to be really complex with this. They're all pending patents, and they're at different phases, and they're in two patent families. We've been pulled up on this before, but yeah, there's a PCT patent around the reflex mechanism inside the helmet. The LED array system is actually moving into a standard patent phase, which covers all United States, Europe, Japan, and Australia, and New Zealand. And it's around the LED array technology. There's a pending patent at the moment around how the actual helmet receives information. So it's like a process
system,
patent, system patent around the back end and how we actually process and get that through. But I guess like one of the main things to think about with patents is they're kind of only really worth what you can defend with them, like in court, if you get into a battle with a big brand. Yeah, they're great to kind of have, but if you don't have the steam to fight with them, they can be pretty useless. So the way that we think about our IP is in two parts. It's like we want to protect the stuff to deter competitors from trying to copy us, or potentially want to buy the technology versus rip it off from us. It gives a lot of satisfaction to the customer to know that those things are unique to this product and they're protected. But really, it's about speed and brand. Like you got to get those things
and capturing your audience as well as maintaining them on your platform. So you have to incentivize your existing customers and also new customers to stay on your platform and keep using your features. And that's what kind of brings value to our product in particular.
Yep. So the next question is from Jackson Jones, and he asks, is the use of a carbon fiber shell to counteract the weight of the tech?
Yeah, he's got the right idea. So we chose a carbon fiber shell, one, not only because it's aesthetically really cool and really good looking, it also puts us in a premium category for helmets, as well as taking away some of the weight and allowing us to install the electronics in there to kind of balance out and maintain a good weight category within that range of helmets, I guess.
So the module's only 120 grams. So we've really fought to kind of keep it, even though it does look large, it's actually really light. So we can't create a helmet that has an entirely new weight category because it just won't pass the standards. So like on our biggest size, we're 1550, I think maybe 1550, 1600, depending if you get the premium padding option or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a new weight category for the helmet. So when people pick it up, they're like, actually, no, like this is fine. Like it doesn't bobble or anything. And if you try one, you can really see that's like, you don't even notice that the tech is there. Put an action camera, I can't say that word, or a comm set on your helmet. It's way heavier than having one of these.
Jackson Jones again. What has been the consumer's reaction in the UK and US?
So United States, customers have been kind of like, this is a pretty amazing technology. I don't have to have these things on the helmet. So much so that almost 100 dealerships have signed up to sell it. We're really just struggling to keep up with the demand to ship them over there. UK, we haven't really done a huge amount of marketing there. We've sold about 27 helmets there online. Interesting about the UK is you don't have to pay VAT on shipping motorcycle helmets there. So if you ever do want to sell them, UK is not a bad place. But yeah, so USA has been great so far.
I think something I can, talk about in all of the markets is the fact that people want to have a physical presence to try on, to touch the helmet, to put on their head, to see how they look, to try out the app in person. That's been quite a powerful thing that we've done through events and all these community rides, and people being able to touch and feel the physical thing is a really big one. So that's what we're trying to establish in all these markets at the moment, and we're trying to do this in a structured and in a way where it's step by step to slowly reach all these different markets.
And the next question is from Xinghei Wong, and it's how does the mapping guidelines from Formula One translate to daily drivers UI? Do you guys have to refine F1 inspired UI much?
It's not so directly a Formula One technology. It's more the idea of having the lights on the steering wheel and having those positioned in a very accessible and easy to see area, and at the same time not obstructing the viewport is where we got some of those ideas from, and it's essentially just being inspired by that steering wheel light, which expanded us into all sorts of interesting features, and that became different sort of alerts and different sort of patterns that we invented from that strip of LED.
The next question is from Ji Meng, and she says, great presentation, Alfred and Julian, thank you. I have a question of how do you address technophobia in your design process? Since the helmet is in close proximity to the user's brain, users may have preconceptions or resistance when using it. Have you encountered this issue? And so how have you addressed it? If so, I hope your products continue to improve in the future. It's amazing.
So pretty much like it's really tailored to the experience that you want to get out of the helmet. Like you don't have to have every single alert on. You don't even have to have the camera on. You don't even have to have the music on, right? So like when I ride to work, I set it on auto record. I turn the helmet on. It just records video for me, and I listen to some music while I'm in traffic and stuff. That's how I use my helmet. Now, other people might go, hey, I'm not really interested in the camera, but I do want to go out on the big highway and use it for navigation only. Or there might be people that like, I just want to know about potholes. So it really depends on what you want. But, most of the time, like 90% of the time, the helmet isn't really doing anything unless you ask it to, right? So it's really the convenience of using that technology, like versus click on things on your helmet. It's a lot easier and more succinct.
So kind of imagine it kind of like your co-pilot, and it kind of pops up when it needs your attention. So let's say, like what Alfred just said, oh, look, there's some sort of like road alert or some sort of scary thing that's coming your way. Hey, watch out. Or hey, don't miss this turn. And they're just constant reminders, but done very subtly and not obtrusive, and still allowing you to enjoy that offline experience, if that makes sense.
Great answer. The next question is from Xinghei Wang. And it's, how does sound translate inside? How is the balance between the music and noise passed through the outside for awareness?
This is a good one. So most of this is done through passive noise cancellation. So it's not done with anything that's active. So let's say like some of the like headphones you see out there that have a lot of like noise cancelling technology. We use something more passive. So it's a lot of cushioning and all of isolation within the neckline, which is why we actually redesigned the padding to provide a bit more passive isolation. So you can have a better sound environment for the drivers to perform.
And I might add here that you can never really like seal a helmet completely and make it perfectly quiet when you're on the road. For example, like if you want to hear the outside world crystal, just open your visor for a second. You'll hear everything. All the sound will come in, right? And being a carbon fiber helmet, we intentionally, even though we do have some customers that want something really, really, really quiet, that's not the customer we're after. It's one that wants a blend of both, being able to listen to music and also hear the road. So we've done that mechanically versus using technology, which I think is the more reliable way.
Yeah. And not to mention the power hungriness of active noise cancelling, and power being such a sensitive thing on this small product.
And there's a comment from Justin Alfred. He says, "I'm riveted to the screen. Thank you."
If you want to buy one,
I'm sure.
Let us know.
yeah, it'll give you a good price, mate.
The next question is from Nicholas Fabian. And he says, "Hi, Alfred and Julian. Thank you for coming on to talk to us. Very informative and interesting. It's clear that market and user research is a large part of your design process and success. Is that a practice that competitors simply avoid?"
Oh,
And
yeah, absolutely. So like, sorry to any big competitor watching us, but you kind of suck in this regard. But like when they talk about the end customer, they're talking about the distributor. Right. And this is something we learned when we went to big trade shows. And it's just like, oh, they don't say, like when we talk about a function, we're like, people will like this or people won't like this. This is how we talk about it, right? We're talking about people, the end people that use our product. But really the disconnect is they want to make better margins, more colors every year, more colors, right? And more variation, right? But when we create a product, we're making it almost selfishly for ourselves because we're both motorcycle riders and we want to use it. And there's a whole bunch of people that want to use it as well. So we see the distributor as kind of like a conduit, not really the end customer. And it's easy to get lost in that process because they're the ones paying your bills. So I guess that if you're designing a product, really keep the end people, I hate saying users, but people that use your product close to the process.
Yeah, because end of the day, these factories, they don't really see or meet any of the customers that are buying their products. It's usually the stores that are selling the product to the people who have that first point of engagement with the customers. And through that, like you actually lose a lot of that that value and learning about what people actually want rather than just a new model, a new color.
And one for you, Oya, is if you see a student saying end user or referring to people as end user, you got to bring them up on it now.
Okay. Well,
end person, who's that person? Who's the people? How do they use it?
people.
It's like it dehumanizes the whole process of making stuff. Yeah. I don't know.
So Nicholas, the second question is there anything you would do differently? Awesome to hear about the tech and journey. Congrats.
I don't have 3 hours to go through all the things that I'd do differently. In hindsight, everything's 2020, but in foresight, it's just have a go, right?
Yeah.
But I guess the big ones are like, you're going to get a lot of advice from a lot of people who maybe haven't built their own company before, or you know, they have their 2 cents, and it's really like you're out there and you're budding and you're learning. But I guess it's that kind of arrogance of wanting to do your own thing and do it your way. And what's really unique to the entrepreneur is actually the vision that you have. And to keep that and keep powering through that and what you believe in is really, really important. So, you know, the biggest mistakes that we made were actually just pivoting away from what we actually really wanted to build, right? And being passionate about it, because when things get hard and you're like, how the hell am I going to do this? You have to be really passionate about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it, right?
And being an entrepreneur, you open up yourself to so much noise and opinions and how people see what you do, or they simply just don't believe in how you do it or what you are trying to achieve. They just, and you just got to give yourself a lot more of that self-motivation, and you just got to keep trying every single time you fail. And which is what I think Alfred and I have given each other is the fact that we just kept supporting each other throughout, and we never said quit on it.
And a big one which a lot of designers kind of get wrong, I guess, is Woody Allen said a quote called "finished, not perfect." So like everyone wants to be the Steve Jobs, Jonathan Ives. I want to make the perfect product, but most of the time you either don't have the money to make it perfect, or you essentially don't have the time to kind of make it perfect, and you have to get out to market. And the things that actually make your product perfect is actually the customer telling you the things that they want. So like there's only so much stuff as a designer that you can consider without just kind of chucking it out there and seeing what happens. The customer will tell you, like I tell you, within 1 hour, what they don't like about the product and what they want. Right?
And
so,
everyone's version of perfect is going to be different.
Yeah, it's different. So finished, not perfect. Just get it out there, see what happens, then refine.
It's like everybody wants the world inside the helmet, but you can only provide so much, because by the end of the time you have all these features that they wanted, they're like, oh, sorry, it's too expensive. I can't afford it.
It's like this. There's another sale like which was why does someone buy a drill? Right. And you're like, for the speed, for this, to do this, etc. The main reason is to make a hole. So like
you're buying the hole.
So you're buying to make a hole. Like, so just think about that when you design stuff.
Great answers. So I think I'm mindful about the time, and there's quite a few more questions. So I think we will end there, and we will answer the questions via LinkedIn. So I'll have to wrap up. Thank you so much, Alfred and Julian, for this fantastic presentation and for sharing your story with us and your insight and all your wisdom. It was a pleasure to have you both here today. And also, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who attended this evening, making it even more unforgettable with great questions. And finally, I'd like to announce the next Stories Behind Products. It will be in July the 3rd, and we will have Ian Barrell, another amazing alum of the UNSW Industrial Design program, and he will talk about hex lock system, an ingenious and simple way to secure a bicycle without the need for heavy and cumbersome locks and chains. So stay tuned for the invitation for this event, and we look forward to seeing you again for the following Stories Behind Products. Stay safe and well until then, and look for the answers on LinkedIn for the next questions that we couldn't cover this evening. Stay safe and well, and goodbye, everyone. And thanks again, Alfred and Julian.
Thanks, Oya.
See you later.
Bye.